Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Women in Leadership Alberta chapter, welcome to our podcast, Lead Beyond Today, where we support women with tips, tools, and insights to empower them to greater potential in their leadership journey. I'm Shannon Mayer, founder of Creative Impact Consulting. I'm an executive and leadership coach, a leadership development consultant, a former HR leader, and a proud committee member of the Women in Leadership Alberta chapter and co-chair of the Calgary chapter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Thomsen, founder of Heather Thomsen Consulting Services and co-owner of LumaLead. I'm also, like Shannon, an executive and leadership coach. I'm a member of the Will Edmonton chapter, and I've held various leadership roles throughout my career. One of my favorite topics is leadership and wellness, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today.
So today we're going to take a shift from our conversations that we've been having around thriving as a corporate professional to thriving as an individual. And we hear so much about wellness these days. And we always hear so many organizations are really committing more benefits dollars and initiatives towards employee wellness. And we've all heard about the impact of positive self-care and the benefits that we can all receive on just taking care of ourselves. So it's that thriving as an individual versus thriving as a professional and how they're so equal. And so we're really excited today to explore these key topics to better wellness through the second part of our two-part series, which will address the needs and challenges of two different demographics. So we had a conversation around the millennial and the Generation Z demographic, and today we're going to focus on the mature demographic. I'm going to listen to this one, the boomer and the Generation X, the mature working professional today. So we'll be exploring that today, and like to welcome, we have two wellness professionals back with us to share their areas of expertise in fitness and nutrition and all the information that we need to know today. Thank you.
So I want to welcome back Paige and Kim for the two-part series. So thank you so much. So I want to dive deeper and give you a more thorough introduction. So we're delighted to introduce Paige Thomsen, who's a registered dietitian with HealthStand Nutrition Team. She's born and raised in Calgary. Paige completed her schooling through the University of Alberta and is a regulated member of the Alberta and BC Dietetic Colleges in Canada. She specializes in practical meal planning, emotional eating, disordered eating, and chronic disease management. Her approach also includes cognitive behavior therapy, interactive meal support, motivational interviewing, and intuitive eating. With extensive experience in various care settings, including First Nation communities, food services, schools, and acute care, Paige is committed to promoting health equity regardless of budget, preferences, lifestyle, and medical conditions. Outside of nutrition, Paige performs stand-up comedy with humor related to science-based research in nutrition and normalized diet behaviors. She also enjoys portrait drawing and getting outside to hike any treacherous mountain in the Rockies have to offer. So welcome, Paige, today.
Okay.
And then our next guest we have is Kim Bruce. So for fitness, we welcome Kim Bruce, who is the founder of Soul Spark Fitness and Nutrition and creator of the Stronger series, which is a 90-day coaching program that's designed specifically for women who are navigating perimenopause and menopause. So with over 25 years of experience in the fitness and wellness industry, Kim has guided hundreds of women to regain their strength, confidence, and vitality through a holistic approach that combines fitness, nutrition, sleep, stress management, and hormone health. What sets Kim apart is her ability to blend science with empathy. She's not just a coach, she's a cheerleader and an accountability partner who deeply understands the unique challenges women face in midlife. Kim's philosophy is simple but powerful. It's never too late to take back your health. Beyond coaching, Kim is a wife, a mom, a proud grandmother, and living proof that women can continue to thrive at every stage of their life. She believes in creating sustainable, joyful health practices that allow women to feel strong, sexy, and fully alive without restriction or perfection. So welcome, Kim, to our podcast today.
You.
Well, this is exciting just to have you both here again. I know we're going to have a rich conversation. Super excited. Let's get started. So we have a few questions here for each of our panelists. So starting off with, what do you think is the biggest health challenge facing the Generation X and the Boomer demographics today in your areas of expertise?
From a nutrition perspective, what I'm kind of noticing has been the biggest health challenge for a lot of my clients in that demographic is there is this shift on their bodies are changing more, and there is this fear of weight gain or this increased weight gain that's happening. So paired with a reduced appetite. So there is a lean into that with eating a little bit less, not having that regular structured routine in a day, and we're seeing a lot more nutrient deficiencies because of that. So if there's a lack of appetite, there can be more skipped meals, but we're not taking advantage of what appetite is there. And sometimes it looks like talking to somebody that could be in their 60s or 70s and saying, "Oh, yeah, I just had a small cookie this morning and I'm not really hungry and I might just have a small salad at lunch," but there's not really going to be the nutrient density and the consistency throughout the day. So I would say that the biggest kind of health challenge is managing that lack of appetite and being able to still meet the nutrient needs for that demographic.
Yeah, and for me, from a fitness perspective, oh my gosh, the biggest thing I worry about, especially for my women, is the lean muscle mass loss. So, unfortunately, as we go through perimenopause where our hormones are changing, that also equates to a loss of lean muscle mass. So, if we haven't already started to do some type of strength training, then we accelerate that with our hormones. It's just a recipe for, I worry about falls. I worry about joint
Mm.
instability. I worry about just balance in general. And that doesn't get easier. Unfortunately, it just gets more challenging as we age. Never mind adding issues to the system like disease or injury, where if we don't have a good base of bone strength and lean muscle tissue, it just takes everything that much longer to heal when we're in situations of disease or injury. We'll all have some type of injury in our life, and as simple as, getting a finger caught in a car door. I know it's really hard to see, but I have this incredible little bump on my finger for getting caught in a car door, at 16 years old, and I have arthritis in that finger. So this is just a really one small indicator of how an issue happened at a very young age, but presents now. So we're not going to get away from looking after ourselves, and making sure that we have a good stable body that we can rely on in our last 10 years of life. So this is something that we really need to address, especially in this age.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that. Well, no, I can really resonate with that. I can't resonate with the appetite suppressant. That one I'm not really relating that one very well. But yeah, I hear that from others, just friends and my mom, really how that manifests for sure. And yeah, that working hard to stay fit and, the muscle loss, absolutely. Wow.
So I wanna ask you about, in your respective fields, what might be some common myths or misconceptions that you'd like to debunk for our audience today?
When I am working with any of my clients in that perimenopause stage, a lot of that kind of stage will be accompanied with a lot of gastrointestinal distress.
Mm.
And so typically it's just hormonal changes where it can cause more gas and bloating. We can deal with a little bit more restriction in that category afterwards. So we'll see people trying to cut out certain food groups, trying to go low carb. And there's a lot of this hyperfixation with trying to get down to the root of it by cutting out certain things. When we really do need to look at the overall balance and making sure that your body is staying well fed throughout the whole day consistently. We do not need to cut out carbs in an effort to maintain certain weights. If anything, at this point, we want to be able to hold on to that muscle mass that we still have. And we want to be able to not be increasing protein turnover, which typically means that you're going to be breaking down more muscle tissue. And that happens when people are doing chronic dieting. There's that fear of that weight gain in that stage. So, really making sure you're having well balanced meals throughout the day consistently, I would say would be really important. And then working with somebody that can kind of go over the reasons for changes in digestion because there's more stress at that age. There's more considerations with different people in your life. You're go, go, go. You have to get the kids to school or you have to be working on your shift. And there's just not that kind of prioritization towards that basic need of getting food in and being able to receive those nutrients. So that would be kind of the most common myth or misconception is that we don't need to restrict more. We don't need to lose weight because even with a lot of my clients, there is this fear that there's more chronic disease kind of on the horizon, whether it's diabetes or heart disease. Weight loss is not associated with a better A1C. In many cases, I do see it where clients,
Mm.
if they're not actually targeting health behaviors, their
Mhm.
A1C is actually going up. So that's that marker of diabetes. Um, so I would be really, really adamant on making sure people are looking at the overall behaviors instead.
That's so interesting. And one of the things that you talked about too was, I grew up, a long time ago, I guess, when people were thinking that no carbs, like, oh, carbs are bad. And, but as you both have said, carbs are not bad. And you talked about, these well-balanced meals. And again, kind of wrapping my head around what does a well-balanced meal look like and eating more often. So sometimes are we eating three big meals or is it eating smaller meals throughout the day, that kind of grazing? I'm curious what your thoughts are around that balanced meals and eating.
Yeah, and that's a really great point because just to get into clarifying that, like a lot of dietitians will work with clients on what their kind of eating pattern and meal timing would look like. If there's somebody that prefers the three meals or they need to kind of spread it out into mini meals, that is fine. But just making sure you're providing that adequate glucose. And when we're looking at digestion, weight, and those kind of big concerns that are happening at that stage in life that often what I'll see is these high protein diets with all vegetables. And this puts a lot of stress on the body. We need to make sure that we're setting aside some room on the plate. So a quarter of that plate being towards some kind of starch. So whether that's going to be potatoes, rice, pasta, having that be there, giving adequate supply of glucose, having another quarter of the plate that's going to look like some kind of a protein. It's a good arbitrary marker and then getting in some color on the plate. So really being able to get a lot of variety, not having the same thing breakfast, lunch, and dinner or every single day,
Mhm.
but being able to dilute a bit of those kind of fermentable fibers that are
Mhm.
in vegetables that are very healthy, but at the same time can cause all these gastrointestinal disturbances that when you're already going and managing perimenopause and menopause, it's going to make that almost guaranteed worse. And you won't be holding on to that muscle mass that we're really trying to maintain at the same time too. So the balanced diet consistently in what way kind of works with your schedule.
Kim, what do you think?
I've got three. So, first and foremost, cardio is the key to weight loss and health. Listen, I'm a cardio junkie. I used it and abused it in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s. It was my church. It was a way to blow off some steam. I solved my world problems. on my runs. So I absolutely loved it. But what I found is as my body was aging, it wasn't necessarily a decline in the body from a joint or injury perspective. I actually found that when as I was aging, that the strength that I wasn't doing was affecting the running that I wanted to still enjoy. So when I flipped the switch, and it was, unfortunately, a marathon that I did, my foot got injured, and I found that I couldn't run like I wanted to because I had to wait for this darn foot to heal. I decided to take up some strength training, obviously waiting until I could weight bear. But at the end of the day, I still have half of a body that I could still do exercises with. So remember that, just because you can't do cardio because it might require you to run, we can still do some type of weight training for the upper half of a body if it's injured on the lower half. So don't forget we still have lots of body we can do, and we do need to move from cardio being our only source of health to adding our strength. The second one is that aging means that we're in an inevitably declining with our fitness. That is not true at all. I am a testament to the fact that I am stronger today lifting than I ever was in my 20s as a cardio junkie. And I can see that every day in my movements when I'm getting off the floor. We can recognize that a 60 and 70 and 80-year-old, we've got the ones that have moved their body and the ones that haven't. And you could certainly see that as people age, the 60-year-old that has had some training versus the 60-year-old who hasn't, and how much older they move and how much older they stand and have their posture. The third one is it's too late to start. It's never ever too late to start. I've worked with women in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s who rebuild muscle, regain their energy, and thrive when they're given the right tools. Women with knee replacements, hip replacements. And I mean, I've worked with men as well, but I'm getting, a gentleman ready for a hip replacement. Like this is stuff that can be done at any age. So I don't want you to think that, we'll throw the baby out with the bathwater because we haven't done anything for 30 years. Where do you start? You start by hiring a professional first and foremost if you have not been in a situation where you've had some type of health practice over the last 20, 30 years. Don't do it alone.
Yeah. I've I've really espoused a fitness lifestyle, and I've been a gym rat for 40 years. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I just see, older people in the gym and they're just getting started. And you know what? I nod to them, right? They're there. They're just doing what they can do to get started. And you know what? It's such a great thing. And I've always been super impressed to see that because, it is never too late. And, a couple of times riding with a cyclist this summer, trying to get my road biking back. And I joined a ladies group, and here's this gal who's like this racer, like she looks like Tour de France, and she's in her 60s. And I'm just like, wow, like that's impressive. Yeah. Not everybody needs to be on the cycling team, but the point is you can be, but you can just get started. I think that's so inspirational. Well, there's one question though, in really around that Gen X and Boomer for that demographic is the menopause word. And I'm wondering, that's such a factor that plays into it. And both of you have alluded to that, absolutely. But it's really, we hear so much about that, and, that it's the navigating it. And there's symptoms, and we don't want to try to, explain all of that, but we all have the symptoms, and everybody has their own journey, let's just say. From your perspective and the work you do with clients of the menopausal generation, what advice would you give them navigating this phase in your respective areas?
From like when I'm looking at it from a nutrition perspective, and when we're looking at menopause, there's three key nutrients that I think are really important for women to focus on. Really getting their omega-3 up, essentially more through the diet than through supplementing, just because there is some kind of mixed evidence on the supplements. But if you can really just be able to take some certain protein sources throughout the week, if you're able to swap in fish a little bit more, and different kinds of fish, it could look like even if it's mackerel or sardines. Like I know that you can air fry basically any kind of whole fish, which is cost effective too, and it's very quick. Something to really boost that omega-3, or just taking walnuts as a snack that you can have with dark chocolate and mandarin oranges. Like just just now they're going to be coming into season for the fall and kind of Christmas time. So really getting in more omega-3 when you can, supplementing with vitamin D3. All people need to be taking it. It is really, really crucial. I am somebody who forgets all the time, so I put it in the cup holder of my car. Just because when I get in the car, I know that I'm going to take it because I see it right there. But really supplementing with vitamin D3. And then as we get older, our ability to absorb B12 from our food goes down significantly. So vitamin B12 is in typically like our animal foods, and it's in eggs, and just being able to, if you need to supplement, you can go for that. But otherwise, just making sure that you're having those balanced meals. If you can have some animal protein there, or even if you're taking a fortified nutritional yeast in your diet. So nutritional yeast kind of looks a little bit like fish flakes, to be honest. But you can sprinkle that into different kinds of dips or pastas or any kind of savory dishes to boost that B12 a little bit more so that you can meet your nutrition requirements better. And this has been really helpful in terms of protecting the bone mineral density, reducing kind of inflammation like pathways, and also protecting our hormone function. So those kind of three together, omega-3, vitamin D, and B12 would be my bigger kind of nutrient concerns to look at.
Interesting you mentioned the B12. I was literally yesterday reading about what would I want to do. I finished this whole bottle of B complex and I was thinking, what do I want to replace that with? I almost reached out to you.
Hey,
And I
I'm
was
here.
going to thinking, oh, well now look at this. Now my answer is, or my question's answered. Thanks.
I love that because, just listening to this whole conversation, I'm going to say something quite polarizing. I mean, I think for me, perimenopause, menopause is like our version two of when we started our menses back in, age 10, 11, 12, whatever that was for you. We are just so much more aware of the signs and the symptoms, the naivety of our young 10, 12-year-old self didn't know what the heck she was getting herself into. We may have felt like we're getting hit by a truck, but we've just matured and we've certainly come into our own body. So we recognize a lot of these new symptoms that are coming up and we're thinking that they're foreign, but we've done this before and we're all going to survive. So I think the big thing for me is recognizing that the menopausal excuse for, poor health, poor bone density, poor lean muscle tissue, that's on us. That's not because our hormones have changed. We haven't done a good enough job in making sure that we're going into this phase in the best condition that we can. What are the few things that we have control over? Well, we have control over our sleep, we have control over our hydration, we have control over the nutrients that we get, and we have control over how we manage stress and how we move our body. Everything else is up in the air for the universe, God, whoever is has a control over this to navigate
Mm.
and move. So it is up to us to control as many of those facets that we can. We will have decline, we will have symptoms, we will have to negotiate maybe some type of disease or injuries, but what we can do is control the things that we have in our wheelhouse. So the first and foremost, it's going to be different for every woman because we're all going to start in a different place. But if you are not getting your 8 to 10,000 steps in, I encourage you to work towards that. If you sit at a desk job, I know that you're barely getting in 25 to 3,000 steps. I'm going to encourage you to move up to that 5,000 step mark and get more movement in. I'm going to encourage you to stand with your electric toothbrush for 2 minutes while you're brushing your teeth in the morning on one leg and balance. And then if you've got that 2 minute in a balance, to try to move that knee around as you're standing on that one leg, and do one leg in the morning and one leg in the afternoon. I'm going to encourage you to be purposeful when you're sitting on your chair, to stand up with purpose and awareness, and be aware of your core, that you're have an abdominal contraction, where that isn't just for the crunches in the gym, but you're moving with purpose. Your shoulders are back. Your head isn't jutted forward. This is going to be crucial for the way that we end up in our 70s and 80s and 90s. And if you want to be in a place where you're over your rocker, this sitting with our text way down here with our head bent over looking at our phone is going to be one of the most detrimental things we can do for our longevity of our posture. So this is where we need to start to be aware. And then finally, we need to be in a place where we are adding lean muscle tissue. New research is suggesting that lean muscle tissue is the longevity of life for everything. We can't have it without decent food, and we can't have it without hydration, but we need to start someplace. So if it's that five, like you said, Heather, that 5 minute action, what is your 5 minute action plan? I don't care if that's 1 cup of water. That is going to be the one fundamental habit that you're going to stack on. We didn't get to this place by just aimlessly walking through life. We've stacked habit on habit on habit. So let's make sure that what we're stacking is tools for our last 10 years of life.
Yeah, I love that. I think, we talk about what can you control and what you can't control. And you've given great examples around here's some of the things that you can do. And they're not hard to do. It's about being intentional and being purposeful, right? In the things that you're doing. Yeah, I think that's so important. And we don't want to be the victim. We want to be in control, right? So how do we want to live our life? And I always think about, I was an older mom, and I want to be a grandma that I can do a lot of things, when and if my daughter chooses to have children. So, but, I mean, that's another motivation about, how do you want to show up? Like you said, when you're 70, 80, and 90, and maybe I'll live to 100. So I don't know if I continue to take some steps. So all really, really important. So as we're coming to a close here, I'm going to ask both of you if there's anything else that we haven't discussed today that you think would be really important for our listeners to take away.
Personally, one of the things that I think would be really helpful from a nutrition perspective is just checking out a home scale if you have it at home. It's just deterring you from a lot of things. Focus on the behaviors, focus on providing your body with the nutrition it needs, focus on getting to the gym and building the muscle mass. Like, I really feel like the weight distracts us and gets us too in our head. Just focus on what you can control and go from there.
Yeah, that's
Thank
great.
you.
I love that. Again, focusing what can I control here, right, in this situation. And Kim, I cut you off.
No, not at all. And really, for me, the one thing that I want to mention is there's great markers. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Peter Attia, he runs a program, and I think he calls it a Centurion program. So it's how do you want your last 10 years to be? We've seen the TikToks, we've seen the social media where you've got the 90-year-old in a chair that really can't move a lot to the 90-year-old who's running a marathon. I mean, obviously, it's polarizing with the extremes of the two, but where do you want your last 10 years to be? And you can't start at 90. That's unfortunate. There's always a place for movement, but it's going to be a lot harder as we age. So he has some great tools on how to check in on whether or not we have the tools to
Mm,
age and be strong at 90. The first one is our grip strength.
mm,
We should, as 40 to 50-year-old women, be able to carry 3/4 of our body weight in two hands. So if I'm 150 pounds, I'm working towards carrying 3/4 of that weight in two hands for a minute.
mm,
The other thing that we can check is our grip in a dead hang. So you're hanging from a monkey bar with your feet off the ground. We ideally should be able to hang for 90 seconds. Again, we're looking at lean muscle tissue and grip strength being two factors on longevity and lifespan, which is really quite interesting that that's what
yeah.
we come down to. But he's done a great job in breaking it down, and I just wanted to make sure that you had some type of goals to achieve, and those would be two that I would look to practice. And they're easy to add with a chin-up bar at home or a monkey bar at the local
Mm,
playground or bar in the gym, and then two milk jugs, just adding weight from a water to sand to being able to add that to your routine is two ways that we can ensure that we'll be able to age gracefully and be able to play with our grandkids and sustain a lifetime that gives us mobility.
yeah. I hear so much about the things that we can really just take ownership of, and there's a lot of information and tools. And, you know, as an executive coach, I really find conversations with my clients that can be really powerful about, they're also the sandwich generation. So now we add elder care into the mix as well, and all the distractions. We're usually more senior in our corporate positions, so we're even busier. And we have kids growing up. We might be grandparents, and we have our parents. So elder care, and just really sometimes it's this real need for an intention of carving out that time for us type of thing. And it's just almost that feeling of helplessness, but it's where do you just get started? What are those little things you can start to do? Who can you talk to in your life that'll help support you to allow you that morning walk or whatever? And so that's what I was really hearing loud and clear is from both of you is, there is that ownership that we can take, and it's so possible. I'm going to try the hanging thing. That's something I haven't done.
I'm trying the toothbrush thing.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I buy the big water jugs, I like certain water, and I carry those darn things from my vehicle to the elevator up to my apartment. So I think I've got that under control, but holy. Well, this has just been fantastic. I really appreciate the sharing and what a rich conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank both of you too for coming. And like you guys, I don't think I'm like grip strength. Nope. Dead hang. Nope. But I could do the toothbrush. Yes. So I can start to do some things though that will help move me
Yeah,
forward. And the other thing too is it's fun to find a friend too to work out with. So
yeah.
find someone to do some of these with as well. And so, there's lots of opportunity to connect with other people too. So again, I want to thank you both for coming. Your conversation was very enlightening and gave me a lot of aha moments as we talked through these questions. And so I want to Thank our audience for tuning in to Leading Beyond today from Will, Alberta, where we're committed to empowering women in leadership across our province. So we hope today's conversation inspires you to lead with confidence and purpose and reflect on your wellness and what is one small thing that you can do tomorrow, starting tomorrow, to move yourself forward. So please stay tuned with us as we will have some more exciting episodes coming in the new year. And remember, your voice matters, your vision is powerful, and your leadership shapes the future. Together, we can break down barriers and pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.